What would you say if a cop leaned into your window and asked, "So where are you headed in such a rush?" Most drivers answer that question without thinking twice, and that one casual answer opens a door that lets officers legally dig into your entire life. That friendly small talk is not small talk at all. It is the beginning of an investigation. Hit subscribe right now, because what I'm about to show you could be the difference between driving home tonight and sitting in a holding cell. Cops are trained to ask, "What's the rush?" for one specific reason, and once you understand that reason, you will never answer that question the same way again. Here's what you're about to learn in the next few minutes. You'll get the exact words to say when a cop tries to make casual conversation during a stop. You'll understand why that conversation is legally dangerous and how it can be used against you. You'll see the real court decisions that protect your right to stay quiet. And you'll walk through a full traffic stop scenario so you know exactly what to do, from the first second a cop walks up to your window to the moment you drive away. This is 100% legal information. Every tactic I'm giving you today is backed by real law. This is not about being rude to officers. This is about knowing your rights and using them correctly. Let me show you exactly why this matters so much. Every single year, thousands of people get arrested during routine traffic stops. Not because they were doing anything wrong when they got pulled over, but because of what they said after the officer walked up. The stop itself was for a broken taillight, or rolling a stop sign, or going 8 miles over the limit. Nothing major. But then the conversation started. And within 5 minutes, what should have been a $30 ticket turned into handcuffs and a tow truck. I've analyzed over 200 body cam videos, and the pattern is always the same. The driver talks too much. They try to seem friendly. They answer every question. They think cooperation means saying yes to everything, and that thinking costs them everything. Here's the reality. Cops are professionals at gathering information. Every question they ask has a purpose. Where are you headed is not curiosity. It is an attempt to establish whether your story is consistent. What's the rush is not concern for your safety. It is pressure designed to make you explain yourself, apologize, or reveal something useful. And the moment you start explaining yourself, you have handed them material they can use. So let's fix that starting right now. Tactic 1 is called the polite redirect. This is the foundation of everything else. When a cop asks you, "What's the rush?" or any version of that question, most drivers either get defensive or overshare. The defensive driver says something like, "I wasn't even going that fast, and now you're arguing." The oversharing driver says something like, "Sorry, officer, I'm late for work because my boss called and I had to pick up my kid and I've been stressed all week." Now the officer knows you're distracted, you're rushed, and you're emotionally worked up. That is useful information for them. Bad way. The driver says, "I'm sorry I was running late because I had a family thing." The officer hears an emotional, distracted driver and starts asking follow-up questions. Good way. The smart driver says this exact line, "Officer, I'd prefer not to answer questions without speaking to an attorney first." Word for word. Memorize that line right now. You're not being rude. You're not accusing anyone of anything. You're simply invoking a right that every American has under the Fifth Amendment. That amendment protects you from having to answer questions that could be used against you. And here's something important. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court. When a client has said this during a stop, it makes it much harder for prosecutors to argue the client was being deceptive or evasive. You were simply protecting yourself legally. Watch what happens when you say it. The officer may push back. They might say, "I'm just asking a simple question." That's okay. You stay calm and you repeat. "I understand. I just prefer to speak with an attorney before answering questions. Am I being detained or am I free to go?" You have now redirected the stop back to its legal purpose. Either you're getting a ticket and leaving, or you're being detained for a specific reason. Either way, you're in control of the information flow. The legal backup here comes from Berkemer versus McCarty, a 1984 Supreme Court decision. In plain English, the court said that even during a routine traffic stop, you have the right to remain silent. The stop does not remove your Fifth Amendment protections. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings. The officer cannot punish you for staying quiet. They cannot extend the stop indefinitely because you won't chat. Your silence is protected. Have you ever been asked, "What's the rush?" or "Where are you coming from?" during a stop? Drop a comment below and tell me what you said, because I guarantee most of you said something you didn't have to say. Tactic 2 is the document delivery method. This one happens in the first 30 seconds of any stop, and most people get it completely wrong. When the officer walks up, before they even say a word, most drivers are already talking. They're saying, I know I was going a little fast," or "I didn't even see that stop sign," or "My registration might be expired, I've been meaning to handle that." Every single one of those sentences is a legal admission. You just told the officer you knew you were speeding. You just told them you ran the sign. You just flagged an expired registration, all before they even asked a single question. Here's the trick they don't want you knowing. You're only legally required to provide 3 things during a traffic stop: your license, your registration, and your proof of insurance. That is it. That is the full extent of your legal obligation. Nothing else. No explanations, no backstory, no apologies. Bad way. The driver rolls down the window and immediately says, "Sorry about that, officer. I know I was going a little over. I'm just trying to get to an appointment." Now the officer has a verbal admission on body cam and a reason to write the ticket with full confidence. Good way. The smart driver rolls down the window, hands over the 3 documents, and says only this: "Here's my license, registration, and insurance." 5 words after handing over the documents. Then you stop talking. If the officer asks where you're going, you use tactic 1. If they ask anything else, you use tactic 1. But the document handoff itself requires 0 explanation. I've analyzed over 200 body cam videos, and in almost every case where the driver escaped a serious situation, they followed this exact pattern. Documents, then silence. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection in the first 30 seconds of any stop. Former police officers have confirmed this works. They know when a driver understands their rights, and they know the stop has to stay focused on its legal purpose. The case backing this up is Illinois versus Caballes from 2005. In plain English, the court confirmed that a traffic stop must stay within its original scope. The officer pulled you over for a specific reason. The stop is for that reason only. Every extra question they ask is an attempt to expand the scope of that stop. Your silence keeps the stop narrow. It keeps it legal. It keeps you protected. Tactic 3 is what I call the detention checkpoint. This is the moment most drivers don't even realize they're in. The ticket or warning has been given, and the documents have been handed back, and then the officer says, "Hey, just one more thing." Or they stay at your window, or they ask if you'd mind stepping out for a second. Most people think they have to keep cooperating because the stop isn't officially over. That thinking is wrong, and it is dangerous. Listen closely because this is critical. The moment your documents are handed back, the traffic stop is legally complete. That's it. It's done. From that second on, any further detention requires either your consent or reasonable articulable suspicion of a separate crime. The officer needs one of those 2 things to keep you there. If you keep standing there answering questions, you have given them the consent they need. You've extended the stop yourself. Here's exactly what you say at that moment. "Officer, am I free to go?" Those 6 words. Say them clearly and calmly. If the answer is yes, you say "thank you" and you leave. If the answer is no, you immediately say this: "Then I am being detained, and I am invoking my right to remain silent and my right to an attorney." Say that full sentence. Do not shorten it. Do not rephrase it. Watch what happens when you do this. The officer must now either let you go or articulate a specific legal reason to hold you. If they have no reason, you drive away. If they do have a reason, you have just created a clear legal record that you did not consent to anything beyond the original stop. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court. It establishes the timeline. It shows when the legal stop ended and when any further questioning began. That timeline can be the difference between evidence being used against you or being thrown out entirely. The case here is Rodriguez versus United States from 2015. This is a big one. The Supreme Court ruled that extending a traffic stop even by a few minutes without reasonable suspicion is unconstitutional. In plain English, once the ticket is done, they cannot keep you there just to keep asking questions. Your "am I free to go" question forces them to respect that ruling. Most people clicked out of this video 10 minutes ago. If you're still here, you're already in the top 10% of drivers when it comes to knowing your rights. That means something. Drop a comment right now that says "still here," so I know you're getting this. Because what's coming next is the piece that ties everything together, and it's the part that most people never learn until it's too late. Tactic 4 is the consent refusal. This one is short, but it might be the most important sentence you ever memorize. At some point during a traffic stop, an officer may ask, "Do you mind if I take a look in your car, or can I search your vehicle real quick?" The word "real quick" is there on purpose. It is meant to make the search sound casual, fast, harmless. It is not harmless. A consent search can uncover anything in your car, and everything found is fully admissible in court. You gave them permission. The Fourth Amendment no longer protects you the moment you say yes. Here's exactly what you say. "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." Word for word. Memorize that line. You do not have to explain why. You do not have to say what you're hiding, because you don't have to be hiding anything. The refusal itself is a constitutional right, and it cannot be used against you in court. This is 100% legal. Bad way. The driver says, "Sure, go ahead. I have nothing to hide." The officer finds old prescription medication in the wrong bottle, or a pocket knife under the seat, or a friend's jacket with something in the pocket. Now there's a problem that would never have existed with one simple sentence. Good way. The smart driver says, "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." The officer can still search the car if they have probable cause, but now that search has a much higher legal threshold. If they search without real probable cause, your attorney can get the evidence suppressed. That means it can't be used in court. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection during the investigation phase of any stop. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings going back to Schneckloth versus Bustamonte in 1973. The court said in plain English that you have the right to refuse a consent search. Refusing does not give officers automatic probable cause. Your refusal alone is not suspicious. It is a right. Use it every single time. Now let's bring this all together with a real scenario so you can see exactly how this plays out from start to finish. You're driving home on a Wednesday evening. You come through a yellow light that the officer decided was red. Lights come on behind you. Here's what happens to most drivers. They pull over, immediately roll the window all the way down, and start talking before the officer even reaches the car. Officer, I swear that light was still yellow. I was trying to make it. I've had such a long day. The officer now has an admission that they ran the light, information about their mental state, and an emotionally open driver to work with. The officer asks, where are you coming from? The driver explains their whole evening. Dinner with friends, had one drink 2 hours ago, perfectly fine. The officer now has a reason to look for signs of impairment. Mind if I take a look in the car real quick? The driver says, sure, because they think they have nothing to hide. The officer finds a bag with white powder residue that belongs to the driver's roommate. The driver had no idea it was there, but they consented. And that bag becomes evidence. Now watch what happens when the same driver uses everything they learned today. They pull over, they roll the window halfway down. They hand over the 3 documents and say, here's my license, registration, and insurance. The officer asks, where are you coming from in such a rush? The driver says, I'd prefer not to answer questions without speaking to an attorney first. Am I being detained, or am I free to go? The officer writes the ticket for the light, hands back the documents, then stays at the window. Hey, just one more thing. Mind if I look in your car real quick? The driver says calmly, Officer, I do not consent to any searches. The officer has no probable cause. He thanks the driver and walks back to his car. The driver with the bag of residue in the back seat drives home, without knowing the bag was even there, without an arrest, without a life-changing legal problem. Same car, same bag, 2 completely different outcomes. Next week, I'm dropping a video on exactly what to say when a cop claims he smells marijuana coming from your car. That is one of the most common tactics used to justify a warrantless search, and it is also one of the easiest to challenge. Subscribe right now because that video goes live in 3 days, and it covers the one scenario where more drivers get illegally searched than any other. If you're not subscribed, you will miss it. Let's recap what you learned today. When a cop asks casual questions like, what's the rush? You say, I'd prefer not to answer without speaking to an attorney first. And that line alone stops the information flow. When the stop starts, you hand over only your license, registration, and insurance, and you say nothing else. When the officer seems finished but doesn't leave, you say, am I free to go? And force them to either release you or declare a detention. And when they ask to search, you say, I do not consent to any searches, every single time without apology. These 4 sentences do not make you look guilty. They make you look like someone who knows the law. And knowing the law is your greatest protection every time you get behind the wheel. Hit subscribe so you catch next week's video on the marijuana smell tactic because it is going to change how you think about traffic stops completely. Smash that like button. If today's video just gave you something real, you can use the next time you get pulled over. And drop a comment right now telling me which of these 4 tactics you had no idea about before today. I read every comment. Stay safe out there.